Bills bring back a cut player, A&D cuts someone else hours later. Buffalo just pulled off one of the strangest roster twists of the preseason, and if you're a Bills fan, you need to hear this one. In the span of a single week, the Bills released a player, watched 4 other NFL teams line up to work him out, and then turned around and brought him right back into the building. At the very same time, they cut loose a linebacker they had signed only days earlier, and they did it just hours before their first preseason game kicked off. 2 moves, 1 roster, and a whole lot of questions about what Buffalo is really thinking as the season creeps closer. Stick around because we're breaking down exactly what happened, why it matters, and what it could mean for the rest of training camp. Let's start with the headline: Safety Wande Owens is back with the Buffalo Bills. Now, on the surface, that might sound like a minor transaction, but the timeline here is what makes it fascinating. Owens was released by Buffalo on July 31st. That's typically the end of the story for most players. A quiet release buried in a transactions column that nobody remembers by September. But not this time. Instead of fading into the background, Owens immediately caught the attention of the rest of the league. 4 different teams brought him in for workouts after Buffalo cut him loose. 4. That's not the profile of a player nobody wanted. That's the profile of a player other front offices saw something in. And then, after all of that interest from around the NFL, Buffalo did something that turned heads. They brought him back. According to NFL Network's Mike Garafolo, the Bills re-signed Owens after watching him get pursued by other clubs. Think about that for a second. Buffalo let him go, watched the rest of the league scramble to take a look at him, and then decided they wanted another crack at developing him themselves. That's not a coincidence. That's a front office reevaluating a decision in real time. So who exactly is Wande Owens? He signed with Buffalo originally as an undrafted free agent in 2025, which means he never had the luxury of a guaranteed roster spot. Every single day of his career so far has been a fight to prove he belongs. Unfortunately, an undisclosed injury landed him on injured reserve and ended his rookie campaign before it really got going, and the Bills ultimately waived him with an injury designation. It looked like his story in Buffalo might be over before it started, but his college tape tells you why teams keep circling back. Owens spent his first 3 seasons at Yale, where he played in 29 games and racked up 165 tackles, 18 passes defended, and an interception. He wasn't just a body out there either. He earned first-team All-Ivy honors in each of his final 2 seasons at Yale, which is no small accomplishment. Then in 2024, he transferred to New Hampshire for his final 13 college games and kept right on producing, adding 111 more tackles, 2 pass breakups, and another interception. This is a player who consistently finds the football wherever he lines up. The only question left is whether that college production can translate to Sundays in the NFL. And Buffalo just decided they want to find out for themselves again now. Let's be very clear about something. Bringing Owens back does not hand him a roster spot, not even close. Training camp is where careers get made and broken, and Owens still has to fight through a crowded safety room to prove he belongs on the 53-man roster. But here's the beautiful part of this story. He now gets to try and prove that releasing him in the first place was a mistake. Imagine getting cut, getting call after call from other teams who want to work you out, and then getting a call from your original team saying, "Come back, we want another look." That's about as good a second chance as you can ask for in this league. And for a competitor like Owens, that kind of opportunity can be the spark that changes everything. While all of that was unfolding at safety, Buffalo was making a very different move at linebacker, and the timing on this one is brutal. Just hours before the Bills' first preseason game, they released veteran linebacker Otis Reese IV. Hours, that's about as short a runway as it gets in the NFL. The Bills had only signed Reese the week before, right after the New England Patriots released him during the summer. He was a late addition to Buffalo's 90-man roster, brought in with the expectation that he'd compete for a reserve linebacker job and potentially carve out a role on special teams. Instead, his second stint in Buffalo ended almost as quickly as it began. And this wasn't even Reese's first go-around with the Bills. He actually spent part of last season on Buffalo's practice squad but was never called up to the active roster, and the team released him back in October. So this is now the second time Buffalo has moved on from Otis Reese IV, and it continues what has been a genuinely nomadic run through the NFL for him. He entered the league in 2023 as an undrafted rookie with the Tennessee Titans, where he appeared in 20 games over 2 seasons with 5 starts, built a reputation as a versatile special teams piece, and recorded 38 tackles and an interception along the way. Reports even indicated he had a shot at a starting role in Tennessee's camp at one point, but the Titans ultimately leaned on other players ahead of him on the depth chart. And that eventually cost him his roster spot there too. Now he's back on the open market, searching for his next opportunity yet again. Here's where it gets interesting for Buffalo, though. Just because they moved on from Reese doesn't mean the linebacker position is settled. Far from it. The Bills lost a steady, reliable starter this offseason when Matt Milano hit free agency, and that's left a real void in the middle of this defense. So while Otis Reese IV clearly wasn't viewed as the answer, don't be surprised if this position stays a major storyline throughout the rest of the preseason. And there's already a name being floated as a potential solution, a very familiar one. According to Bleacher Report's Christopher Knox, the Bills could explore bringing back former linebacker Tyrell Dodson through a trade with the Miami Dolphins. Now, to be clear, this is speculation, not an announced deal. But the logic behind it is worth paying attention to. Miami is in the middle of a major roster rebuild, and according to Knox, their trade chips are fairly limited right now, which could make an established veteran like Dodson an appealing option to move. And Dodson's production speaks for itself. He started all 16 games last season and put together a monster year with 129 tackles, 5 sacks, and 10 tackles for loss. On top of that, he's entering the final year of his contract with a cap hit of just $7 million, which is an incredibly attractive number for a team managing a tight salary cap. If Miami is planning to move on from him eventually anyway, dealing him now during the preseason could be their best chance to maximize his value, and for Buffalo, bringing back a player fans already know and trust would be an easy sell. To be fair, nothing about a Dodson trade is confirmed, and Bills fans shouldn't get ahead of themselves. The concrete news right now is simply this: Buffalo released Otis Reese IV while simultaneously welcoming Wande Owens back into the fold after he'd been courted by 4 other franchises. On the surface, these look like 2 separate, unrelated transactions. But zoom out, and they tell the same story. This is a team in full evaluation mode, testing, experimenting, and trying to figure out exactly who can help them win when it actually counts. That's exactly why preseason matters more than people sometimes give it credit for. For a player like Wande Owens, these next few weeks of practices and preseason snaps can be everything. One standout performance can completely change how a coaching staff views him. One rough stretch can put him right back on the outside looking in. And Buffalo doesn't have the luxury of ignoring roster weaknesses this year. The expectations on this team are enormous. Bills Mafia isn't interested in another season where the team is simply good enough to sneak into the playoffs. We've lived that story already. We want a team built to still be standing in January and standing tall in February. That's why decisions at positions like safety and linebacker carry so much weight right now. You need depth. You need players ready to step in the moment an injury happens. You need reliable special teams contributors. And you need young talent capable of developing into legitimate difference makers. Buffalo has to get these calls right before the regular season exposes any cracks for them. So here's where things stand. The door just swung back open for Wande Owens, a fighter who has already proven he can find the football at every level he's played. The door just closed on Otis Reese IV, whose NFL journey continues to be defined by opportunities that never quite stick. and the linebacker position remains one to watch closely. Especially with Matt Milano gone and Tyrell Dodson's name now floating around the rumor mill, nothing is settled, nothing is guaranteed. And honestly, that's what makes this stretch of the calendar so much fun to follow. We're close enough to real football that every single roster move starts to feel significant, but there's still enough time left for somebody to completely flip the narrative. So Bills Mafia, I want to hear from you. Do you like Buffalo's decision to bring Wande Owens back after 4 other teams came calling? Do you think he actually carves out a spot on the 53-man roster? And what should the Bills do at linebacker after cutting Otis Reese IV? Do you want to see them go get Tyrell Dodson, or trust what's already on the roster? Drop your thoughts down in the comments, because this conversation is exactly what this channel is built for. If you're serious about this team, if you believe Buffalo can finally break through and win it all, then hit that subscribe button and help us build Bills Mafia from the ground up. Smash the like button, leave a comment, and let's keep this conversation going all season long. Here's to a year where January football means something, February football means everything, and we're all still talking about the Buffalo Bills, this time with a Lombardi Trophy in the picture.